So this water is an experiment that I'm not yet sure if it's working. Let's just take a look at, this is the material. It's more interesting to look at the UVs. So I wrote a script that basically breaks up every single face and shrinks it to almost nothing. And then in the next UV channel, it's just perfectly mapped to be tileable. But you can see it's just a mesh that's meshed in a somewhat natural looking way, like not in a uniform way. Uniform, depending on how you define that. So this was my initial thought of water, and there's something really beautiful about it that made me happy for a time. And what I end up questioning is it too it's like it's too low poly, it's too faceted. There's something about that that's nice, but when you look over here, this isn't like a faceted world. Sure, the trees have these polys that are kind of sticking out, but this is very faceted. It looks like it would match another low poly game. So I made this is low poly simple. So I went from there to water detail to here, and I thought, is this better? How detailed do I want the water to be, like as an art direction? And there's something better about it, but at the same time, it's still, I kind of think about anime, how like in anime, some things are extremely simple and then some things are highly, highly detailed. Sometimes the water is very simple blue plain, other times they go exaggerated in how much detail and interest there is. So here again, I showed this to a friend of mine, and he felt like he wanted it to be a blue plane, like a solid blue plane. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm not going to do that. What I do like it's happening is there is like a movement that it undulates in a way that's kind of interesting, that doesn't feel super like it's not like the water's all moving in one direction. And also I don't like when you see the water that's just panning across each other. I see the patterns, and most people wouldn't, but as an effects artist it bothers me. So I do like the setup I have for the natural movement. But then I went back to like, how do I simplify this water down? And here is water simplify. Oh wait, do I need this one? No, that's directional. So here is a simplified water. It's just not there yet. I think that it matches this world better. Like when you look over here and you have the water, there's a couple questions, like, is the main character going to live on a boat? Like, is the boat a central theme? If that's a central theme, then the water needs to have detail, that because you're going to see the water in absolutely every level. If he doesn't have a boat and he only randomly takes it, then that really dictates to me what type of water we want to see. Even still, this particular technique is just an experiment that I'm not sure is working. So I'm going to quick open up another level, which is the town test. Don't see. So in the town test, the questions I have is like, all right, well, what does running water look like? So over here, when we look at the water here, which is tuned a little better, it's like, it's okay. I mean, it's kind of getting there. It's kind of working. Like, some things are working, but then water isn't always the ocean. The ocean is a type of water that you would see. So what does running water look like? So this is the same technique, but I can show you with the original directional water, matte directional. So this was that low poly style, seeing that in movement. Then there's I don't know if I do have a detailed directional. I might not have done a detailed directional. So just have this. So I did like some things that were happening here, but again, I think the poly it's too distracting. And I didn't want to go so far as to make like polys very tiny. I feel like that would also take away the point of the simplification. Then the last place that water would be is sitting still and idle, and that's a question of like, well, what does still water look like in a small scale? And all this is in development. I'm not sure where I'm going with it. Like I'll probably continue to tweak it till the very end, but I think there's some interesting things going on. So let's just take a look at Water Simple. So the most interesting stuff is the movement, but so all I'm doing is based on a texture that's panning, I lerp 2 colors, so that will sort of break up the colors based on UV map 0, which is those shrunken ones, which is the one that looks very faceted, and then I lerp those between vertex colors. So all of this, all this shoreline colors. So you see the brighter near the shore and darker in the deep. That's all just vertex painted. Like if you want to do an opaque material, you can't use depth bias. So if you can't use the depth bias material, isn't that what it's called? Depth bias? Depth fade, like opacity fade. So that only works on opaque or transparent materials. I don't want a transparent water. I want no transparencies as a challenge to myself. So even in effects, there's no transparencies. Asterisks, I do have some dithering transparencies, but I wanted that only to be for the camera, based on when it gets through certain things. So it's not too interesting to say like how the color is all flickering. The core of all the materials, which I can go back, I'll just use the actual core material to show that. So I break it down into horizontal movement. So I have like what I want to basically squash and stretch the sides, because you can't. I don't want to, like, I can't scroll the vertex away, so they have to go somewhere and then come back. So this is something I just built from scratch. That honestly, as I'm thinking about it, I build it, and then when I look back, I'm like, okay, so absolute world position. Clearly, it's top-down projected material. What is this texture? I don't even know. Okay, that's just Gaussian, or just that render clouds from Photoshop. And then time. So I'm slowing time down on the. What am I slowing time down on? Time. Oh, so I'm making my own panner, and so I'm distorting the UVs. So anyhow, and then what I'm doing here is I'm breaking the scale of them based on, when you come up here is the vertex color, vertex of white. I mean, honestly, it confuses me. Like, I look at this and I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, why did I go from white? But anyway, I think the core of it is that you break the horizontal movement up from the vertical, because the vertical can have like those waves that, like, this is not the best texture, it's just a texture that I had, and I was like, let's just use it. And then I broke it down based on vertex color, so like when you're near the shore, I don't have too big of a breakup, because I always hate when the water looks silly right on the shoreline with these big movements, but then when you get out to the deeper water, it goes deeper. So that's essentially, red is near shoreline to blue is all the way out to the deepest. Nope, opposite of that. Anyway, so the blue color would be multiplying it down to a smaller amount. So what I'm doing over here is, let's just go to the main material. So my main material is pretty straightforward. This multiplier is an alpha that's just over the glow. So whatever object needs an extra glow, that would go through here as just a Fresnel. So I have a fake lighting built into the emissive. So what I'm doing is I have a multiplier. So I multiply the diffuse down and I multiply the emissive down, so because I'm using both of those. And that's how I'm getting this lighting style to look like this really light, really soft shadows, like that's because I'm faking it by every material having fake lighting. And this fake lighting is controlled through parameter collection, because if every material that has fake lighting needs to be controlled. So it's pretty straightforward if you know parameter collections, that you just have, I want the total of that to equal 1. I don't even know if that's correct math. It's just sort of like, it seems to look, that doesn't equal 1. Yeah, it does. So anyhow, That's how I'm controlling all the materials with the fake lighting, and I can tweak it no matter what I'm working with.